Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CloudEagle SaaS Mastermind Podcast. Today, we are excited to host Noni Azhar, CIO at ProService Hawaii, an award-winning CIO recognized by HMG Global Leadership Institute, with over 20 years of experience leading impactful IT strategies at industry leaders like Podium, HashiCorp, and Box. Welcome, Noni. Great to have you.
Thanks, Kevin Pilav. Great to be here. Appreciate you inviting me. Looking forward to having this conversation.
Awesome. So we'll kickstart into things, but let's go back a little bit. We'd love to understand your journey around tech leaderships, your role at ProService Hawaii, and anything interesting you would like to share. Fun fact would be great, just so the audience can get a quick primer on you.
Awesome. Well, I've always been fascinated about solving the people, process, technology triangle, and kind of started as a developer, moved into technical consulting, and in technical consulting kind of didn't get to see the end product, if you will. Kind of, when you move on to the next client, you don't know if what you built and developed was successful or not. And that's how I kind of transitioned into IT. And like a month in, I was like, this is where I want to be. Once I got over the fact that, when I used to charge people for my opinion, people liked it. But when I was giving it for free, like you'd have like 20 different people challenging it. But once I got over that, I was like, I found my home. And, it kind of started off with like app leadership roles at Sugar CRM and Box, and then transitioned to broader IT leadership roles with, having applications, data, IT, infra at HashiCorp and Podium. And then for the last 9 months, I've been at ProService, leading the corporate technology team that's comprised of applications, data, IT, infra, security, and then also in operations, and recently also taking over leading a support team as well.
Amazing.
And then, fun fact, so up until 6th grade, I did a different school every grade, which was pre-social media. It was tough, but I think it taught me how to make friends quickly as a kid. And then I think in kind of personal, professional career, like being able to connect with people quickly. And then I'm a huge sports fan. I wish it was more like playing sports, but watching sports. And at one time I was in 7 different fantasy football leagues. I've scaled back since then, but yes.
I guess it does translate to managing different teams, making sure you understand everyone's capabilities, weaknesses.
Exactly. Different draft strategies, like different strategies as you're building and growing and scaling teams. So yeah, some correlation there.
Well, awesome. So Noni, today we really want to talk about, of course, IT and around SaaS management, of course, the procurement side as well. We'll love to hear from your end. So we've seen studies that companies who are actually using data for their procurement strategy were able to reduce their spend by 15%. We'd love to understand on your end, what are some key insights or analytics you rely on when you negotiate and evaluate SaaS vendors?
Yeah, I'm very data driven, I think, and I think for me, data is very important in terms of like making data informed decisions. And again, when you're procuring tools, technology, it becomes even more important because you don't want to just get something and have to continuously replace tools. So I think the first thing from a data perspective is like, all of us CIOs, we actually like each other and we talk to each other. So we kind of compare and get data and information. I think that's critical, right? Because and it's not just data from a pricing perspective. I think more importantly is also, hey, was this tool successful? Does it work or not? So I think like having that from a data perspective is super critical.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, past experience as well. Like, once you get to CIO level, you've been in a few different places. You've seen, same vendors, different vendors, similar kind of vendors, and you kind of have an idea from a pricing perspective. I think that data becomes super critical. And then of course, benchmarking and tools that are kind of within like the SaaS procurement space that kind of provide either benchmark data or kind of give insights in terms of like the different vendor space. And I think that, we're continuously seeing that more and more of a trend, because I think it helps make data informed decisions, and I think also make decisions faster, which is critical in today's world where there's so much going on and you don't want to be bogged down in terms of making a decision. You want to move fast and start executing.
Right. You bring up an interesting point, benchmarking. So it seems like you're using some hard data and then some soft data with your network. Do you weight one more than the other? How,
Yeah,
yeah, do you prefer one over the other?
I think definitely like with peers, right? Because that's like actual data. It's kind of, and you're kind of talking with similar people, right? Like technologists, people who've been there, people who've seen things, you know, like I've silvered my beard. I've lost all the hair that I had to lose, right? So like you have a few battle scars, and when you talk to peers who've kind of experienced the same thing, you rely on that, right? And I think that's the key thing, right? Is like because it's you're kind of boldly going where others have gone before, right? If somebody else has tried something, you're kind of going there, and I think both from a value proposition, but also from a cost perspective, right? Because whatever budget you have, it's still going to be limited, and you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and you want to make sure that you're kind of getting the value driven proposition, and that data is super critical. So yeah, definitely rely on kind of that peer experience knowledge data.
Amazing. Now, okay, if we transition a little bit, so now that you do have the data in place, how do you put it in action? Are there any practical strategies or frameworks that you've used that you can share with the audience around successful negotiations?
Yeah, for me, the most critical thing is for vendors to be that partner. Be a partner, like think about it from a long-term end game perspective. What is the value proposition, right? And I think that is super critical more than the cost. The cost is definitely important, but I think that's what I see from vendors in terms of like if you lead with price,
Yes.
that's a flag for me. Like lead with your value proposition. What have you understood my business? Have you understood the pain? How are you going to address that pain now? Do you understand where long term where the team, the company is going, and how you fit in that picture? I think that is super critical. And to me, if you lead with cost, you've kind of like your leverage as far as negotiation, you've kind of compromised that as a vendor, right? Because then you're just like about cost, right? So I think that is super critical in terms of from a and show from a long-term perspective, right? And I think in terms of like, are you going to be here, or are you going to be one and done, right? Like 1 year, and then you're kind of like, I'm going to be looking for a replacement. So that becomes super critical. The time taken, right? Like what else is our vendors going to kind of come in terms of like, is it a POC? Is it going to be like you do a test pilot before you prove your value proposition? I think that becomes critical as well. And again, like I mentioned, we talk to each other, right? So like from a pricing perspective, there's some kind of understanding. And if you kind of come to make all your money in the first year, like that's more than just negotiation. You kind of ruled yourself out. Like I'm going and in today's world where there's so many different options, I think that is super critical where, you're not, no solution is going to be perfect. You're going to follow the 80-20 rule, and you want to kind of find that vendor that solves some of your critical needs now, but is going to grow and scale with you. I think that to me is the most critical. And then of course, from a pricing perspective, right? Like, how much uplift are they like, charging an exorbitant amount of uplift? Is it going to be more flat from a renewal perspective? The terms that they're kind of giving, like those definitely become important as well.
That's really helpful, especially on the vendor side. How about on your end? How do you get the most favorable terms for your benefit on your side as the buyer?
Yeah, I think it's about the growth and scale, right? Like in terms of like if you're starting, for instance, with a tool for one department, right? Like and you're piloting it with one department, you want to be able to grow and scale. And I think that for vendors, like to see like there's that opportunity to grow with other departments, or if there are multiple business units, like here at ProService we have, right? Like so if I'm trying something with one business unit, from a negotiation perspective, I have like other BUs that I want to expand, and for the vendor, that's opportunity as well, right? I think that is critical. And I think the other is, right, like again, and I'll keep coming back to this, so like we share information as CIOs, right? So if you don't look to make just the deal with me, if it's successful and you give a good price and value proposition, there's potential for you to get more leads generated for other deals, right? Like I think that is the key thing as well.
Awesome. That's great. Yes, everybody loves especially sellers love multi-year contracts. So
And referrals, right? Like you can get like I think that if somebody's going to be a referenceable customer, I think that's worth more than charging 5% more on a contract, right?
yeah. Great. Now kind of looking beyond the purchase in your stack, and it's a big movement now with AI. AI adoption is fast. How are you keeping an eye on any issues or any legal parameters in place for AI, like no training models, especially with this being AI being thrown into every application in your existing tech stack, as well as any new tools your team is just signing up for. Do you have anything in place right now as you tackle that?
Yeah, I think it's critical, right? Like I think firstly as well, right? I think it's like AI is not solving world hunger just yet, right? Like, so it's kind of like, where are you deploying AI strategically and seeing the value benefit as you kind of go more broader? And I think that's I think the biggest decision is where you make those decisions. And, again, we're looking for some use cases around automation and really kind of taking the work out of work, or at least the manual work. That's kind of where we're focused. And I think it's key to have that partnership across like technology, legal, and security, to have like the policies in place as far as exactly you said, no training, like making sure that our data is not being shared, like kind of it's all contained within our environment, especially as you're kind of starting on that journey. I think that is super critical, that you kind of have that contained, you have those policies in place, everybody knows those policies, and you kind of have that everybody kind of locked in arms from like legal, security, technology, and then also all kind of stakeholders involved as well. Because again, like there are challenges, there are things that, multiple kind of fronts that people need solved across go-to-market, finance, etc. teams. Everybody kind of is like lockstep in terms of following those policies and guidelines, but doing it in a way that enables like pace. I think that is also super critical, that you don't want these to slow down as well, because like the pace is with the introduction of AI, everybody is wanting to and can go faster, right? And you want to be an enabler for that as well.
Yeah. You bring up a good point around cross collaboration, and this is what we've seen as a big problem when managing a scaling organization with many applications, many vendors, and AI now. It's really hard to make sure the right hand is talking to the left leg, right? when it comes to SaaS sprawl, and keeping everybody on the same page to make sure you're not over bloating in software. What are some strategies and approaches have you done to consolidate SaaS vendors?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the story of my life, and I'm sure like most, if not all peers as well. Like SaaS sprawl is something that you have to deal with, and I think part of it is, right, like usually like as companies are growing, like the technology IT team is something that's kind of built as an afterthought, and you're kind of playing catch up with some of the putting the ring fences around like the SaaS sprawl. And again, whether it was cloud, whether it was digital transformation, and now AI, right? Like it's all kind of the same script, if you will. I think the key thing again is the partnership and everybody being on the same page in terms of like, look, we gotta get this right. And I think the mistake I think sometimes made is like tackling it from like cost savings as a first kind of lever. It has to be about efficiency and employee productivity, because it is that, right? Like if you have 4 different ticketing systems, for example, that you have to interact with based on which department you're working with, that's like employee productivity lost, and it's like it's hard to keep track of that, right? So it's just simplifying the tech stack, having like where like what is best in class, and you have like that simplicity, and increase in efficiency and employee productivity is key. And then of course cost savings comes as a benefit. And I think where it works well again is like where everybody's on the same page and everybody agrees this is something we want to do. And I think that's where the role that a technology team like IT can play is be that central kind of conduit for making and enabling that happen, but it's a joint venture that everybody is kind of involved in, whether it's like teams like procurement, legal, security that are part of the procurement process, and of course like the key business stakeholders, be it like sales, marketing, finance people, whatever kind of teams are looking to kind of simplify and enhance like their tech stack. And again, simplification sometimes means adding tools, right? That there are kind of gaps in, and it's not just about like consolidation and removal of tools. And I think that's the key thing, is where you kind of have that and everybody is singing from the same hymn book, if you will. And then you also want to have the regular communication out, right? Like everybody needs to know where we are, how we're consolidating, what's the benefit. And you want to have those, just like you do on initiatives, you have those KPIs and you have those metrics that you're tracking. You want to be able to track that and communicate that out so everybody can kind of see, again, coming back to what we said, data driven, right? So if you need to have the data to prove it that it's working as well.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just cutting, right? To your point of, it's just not the dollar savings. It's very nuanced.
If it was, Kevin, I wouldn't have as much silver in my beard, and again, I wouldn't have lost all my hair. So I wish it was as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, we are, of course, in a era of AI. Would love to understand from IT procurement, how are you using any AI? Are you seeing anything interesting in AI specifically around IT procurement that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think right now my focus is kind of more enabling our business, right? Especially around like customer support and some of our account management teams, and really making sure that we can get the value proposition and really take the work out of work in terms of some of the manual and repetitive tasks. Yeah. That's kind of the focus. I think once kind of that's solved, I definitely think from a procurement perspective, there are a lot of tools that kind of from a SaaS management perspective, I think are providing the solutions that are needed. I think a lot of my focus down the line would be on using AI and automation for some of the internal mechanics, if you will. How can we reduce the time that legal, security as examples, right? Like have to gather the fact finding and gather the information. How can we make some of the automation where, right now as well, we're tracking it in Excel, for example, right? Like making that, although by the way, I do want to get a t-shirt that says Excel is going to die after cockroaches, because like I think that just is a reality. But we want to get into like some of that automation and time saving for internal teams. I think that really will help, I think, enable a better, more accurate procurement, and I think more importantly, allow those teams to really focus on more value-added propositions where they can use their skills to drive the business forward.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. So we have a few minutes left here, Noni. Would love to do some few fun lightning round questions.
Do it.
First one. Can you share one procurement myth that you'd like to debunk?
It's all about cost saving.
Very nice. Very nice. Next one. What's your go-to negotiation tip in one sentence?
Value proposition and long-term vendor relationship.
Great. And top prediction for the biggest shift in SaaS vendor management?
I think it's going to be what I was talking, like some of the internal mechanics, like how do we get more efficiencies within like some of those reviews internally for teams like legal, security, procurement.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So Noni, thank you so much. I appreciate all the insights, the audience as well. Your lost hair and gray beard is not unappreciated. Before we let you go, would love to give a chance for you to share where can people connect with you. Are you working on anything specifically interesting that you want to share with the broader audience? Feel free to plug everything and anything that you like.
Absolutely. I think we're definitely exciting times where we're kind of growing and scaling at ProService, and we're really focused on automation and efficiencies. We're building what we're calling like a SWAT team for those internal efficiencies, and really focused on automation and AI in how we can really reduce the amount of time that teams like support and some of our service organizations can really get the benefit from making technology simpler and kind of enhancing their efficiency and workflow process. So super excited about that, and excited to be partnering across the company on that. People can find me on LinkedIn. Noni Azhar, like definitely more than happy to connect and kind of again share insights and learn from each other.
Amazing. Definitely connect with Noni, guys, if you want your own copy of the Excel will outlive cockroach t-shirt.
There you go.
Amazing. Noni, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much and enjoy the long weekend.
Kevin, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.